The Gaza Strip is once again facing a massive displacement crisis. Thousands of Palestinian civilians have been forced to leave their homes in the northern areas and move south, following the expansion of evacuation orders issued by Israel. Streets are crowded with families carrying only the essentials, bags, blankets, and a few personal belongings that could be saved. This scene underscores the worsening humanitarian crisis amid intensified airstrikes. Along the evacuation routes, long lines of refugees can be seen, including children and the elderly, many of whom have no clear destination, simply following the flow of people directed toward the south. Although authorities describe the southern areas as safe zones, these regions are already overcrowded with makeshift tents, limited clean water, and insufficient food and medical supplies. Humanitarian organizations have warned that forced displacement not only exacerbates the suffering of Palestinians but also poses serious risks to civilian safety. Many families now live in uncertainty, with no guarantee of when, or if, they will be able to return home. The atmosphere is filled with panic and despair as they move toward the southern regions. On the ground, the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate. In the emergency tents, thousands of families are forced to share cramped spaces. Most have only 1 or 2 blankets to protect themselves during the cold nights. Meanwhile, daily food supplies are insufficient. One package of bread often needs to be shared among many people, including children in critical growth stages. Access to clean water is extremely limited. Many residents are forced to use unsafe water, increasing the risk of waterborne diseases. Healthcare services are nearly paralyzed. Hospitals in the southern region, expected to accommodate casualties, are overwhelmed by both those injured in the attacks and those falling ill due to unsanitary conditions in the shelters. Medical staff and volunteers are struggling to cope with the surge of patients, often working long hours without rest. Recent reports also highlight severe obstacles in aid distribution. Trucks carrying food and medical supplies frequently face delays at checkpoints, while the number of people in need continues to rise daily. International organizations warn that without immediate and unimpeded access for aid, Gaza faces an imminent humanitarian catastrophe. Reports from the field indicate that hundreds of thousands of residents have fled from the north to the south over the past few days, triggering a mass displacement unseen in recent times along Al-Rashid Road and coastal routes. Several evacuation routes are either blocked or severely congested, forcing many families to walk long distances while carrying children and assisting elderly relatives. Restricted exit access, sometimes limited to 48-hour windows, has made the evacuation process chaotic and hazardous, particularly for those without vehicles or the financial means to secure transport. In the southern shelters, tents and medical facilities are operating far beyond capacity. Schools and community centers repurposed as temporary shelters are overcrowded, while hospitals struggle to accommodate both the injured from ongoing attacks and those suffering from illnesses caused by poor sanitation. Aid distribution faces critical delays. Humanitarian trucks often remain stuck at checkpoints, and supplies of food, clean water, and medicine are far from sufficient for the millions seeking refuge. The United Nations and other international NGOs warn that if this situation continues without immediate aid access, the risk of famine and disease outbreaks will rise sharply. Amid this chaos, the voices of refugees reflect despair, families sharing a single blanket, scarce food, and uncertainty about when or if they can return home. The humanitarian crisis demands urgent international attention and safe access for relief efforts. Along the evacuation routes, a sense of fear and tension continues to dominate. Airstrikes are still being reported in several areas, even as thousands of civilians move south. Families walk for tens of kilometers, carrying children or using makeshift carts. The elderly and people with disabilities are among the most vulnerable, often falling behind due to limited transportation options. Meanwhile, the designated shelters are far from completely safe. Humanitarian reports indicate that even so-called safe zones remain under threat from ongoing attacks. The combination of fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty weighs heavily on the displaced, with no guarantee of safety anywhere. Basic infrastructure has largely collapsed. Electricity is almost entirely cut off in many areas, severing communications and access to information. Many families have lost contact with relatives, unsure if they are safe or have been injured. At night, the temporary shelters are illuminated only by candles or small fires, casting a somber, almost apocalyptic mood over the settlements. International organizations have repeatedly emphasized that forced displacement under these conditions exposes civilians to extreme danger. Yet, on the ground, Gazans can only survive with whatever little resources they have, waiting for a resolution that has yet to come. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza has now reached a critical point. According to aid organizations, the number of displaced residents moving south has already exceeded the capacity of the region. Schools converted into temporary shelters are overcrowded, with multiple families crammed into each classroom. Courtyards and hallways are filled with makeshift tents made from tarps and plastic sheets. Food distribution is becoming increasingly scarce. Residents often have to share a single package of bread or a small portion of rice among dozens of people. Long lines at distribution points frequently result in disputes, as supplies are far below the demand. Children can be seen crying from hunger, while their parents remain helpless. Access to healthcare is under severe strain. Hospitals in Khan Yunis and Rafah that are still operational are operating far beyond capacity. Casualties from ongoing attacks are mixed with patients suffering from dehydration, diarrhea, and skin diseases caused by poor sanitation at the shelters. Medical supplies are limited, and staff work tirelessly for days on end without breaks. The UN and other international agencies warn that without a pause in attacks and immediate humanitarian access, Gaza could face a large-scale disaster. For the displaced, each day is a struggle to survive with no certainty of when or if their suffering will end. The situation on the ground in southern Gaza remains dire. Families continue to arrive at overcrowded shelters, many having walked for hours or even days with minimal food and water. Children are among the most affected, showing signs of exhaustion and malnutrition, while parents struggle to keep them safe and calm. Reports indicate that medical facilities are stretched to the breaking point. Hospitals lack sufficient staff, medicine, and equipment to treat both injuries from the ongoing conflict and illnesses caused by unsanitary living conditions. Emergency responders are overwhelmed, often forced to make difficult decisions about who can receive immediate care. The lack of electricity and communication infrastructure adds to the crisis. Many families cannot contact relatives or access news updates, heightening anxiety and uncertainty. Despite international calls for safe corridors and humanitarian aid,